Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Evenlease, and today on 10 Minutes more or less ship review, right behind me, the RSI METEOR. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, welcome back to another review. Thank you, WinRAR42 and of course Archangel8 for joining me with this brand new RSI METEOR. This ship here is brand new to 4.2.1 and it's quite a beautiful looking ship. I will have to say the new details to the outside of this ship, as it's kind of a variant to the Mantis, but not 100% because there are additional details and differences with this ship compared to the Mantis, but almost a copy and paste of the interior. So it is quite amazing. Now, taking a look at this ship, $240 war bond or $260 if you were to buy it with store credit. There is no way to purchase it in-game at this time, but in the future, maybe we'll see it in a couple months in-game for purchase. Now, this ship is not as good as everybody was expecting it to be, and I will dive into that here in just a moment. But first, let's start with that claim time, sitting at 13 minutes and 30 seconds, or if you were to expedite it, it is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then the pilot does have a pretty amazing amount of firepower, sitting at 4,514 burst damage per second, but I will have to say, ballistics currently in the game do get a punishment, so they lose 50% of their damage, putting you at 3,181 burst damage per second due to your 4 size 3 FL-33 laser cannons and your 2 size 5 Leonid's ballistic cannons. Those are the big ones right there on the sides, which you cannot remove. Those are bespoke. You can change out the FL-33s, but not the big size 5. Which is honestly too bad because those guns are very difficult to use at anything that's too far from you. Like if you're within maybe 1,000 meters, you're going to have a pretty okay time hitting a target depending on how big that target is, but the round speed is just devastatingly slow with those guns. And then having that 50% punishment is no good when you're hitting something and you're like, why is my guns not doing this damage that it should be doing? So it's kind of too bad. In the future with engineering, these size 5 guns should hit pretty hard with stripping through armor and all sorts of different systems. It's going to be pretty cool. But as of right now, in the current state of the game, it's a very difficult weapon to use, especially with any other gun that you put on this ship, because you're going to have 2 different pips. So you'd have to switch between the guns to make sure you're only shooting those ballistic cannons when you're close enough and have the opportune time to do so. Now you do have 4 size 2 Dominator 2 missiles and 4 size 4 Raptor 4 missiles, which is pretty good. Those are an amazing amount of missiles, and you can actually swap these things around to a multitude of different payloads when it comes to those missiles, which is really awesome. And we saw that in the trailer prior, the talking about this ship, and you can put so many different missile packages on this, which is just awesome. But then again, like I said, are you turning this thing into a missile boat, or are you going to be using these big guns, this weapons on here? I don't know. It's pretty difficult because this ship is really fragile, and you wouldn't think it is just looking at the stats directly, but it really is. It has 2 size 1 military grade C shield generators, outputting 3,460 bubble shield, which is kind of low. It's not like No, it's just low. I mean, I'm just going to say that it is low for a medium fighter, 3,400 bubble shield with that military grade C. It's not the greatest. And then you look at the ship HP sitting at 30,150. You're like, wow, that's actually a pretty good amount of HP. But then you look at how the spread is. This thing is just paper thin. Like every part of this ship just breaks apart pretty easily. Take one missile, you're in trouble. Get hit on the nose of this ship too much, you're in trouble. And by too much, I mean just a few shots. It's a hard ship to fly. We were facing Vanguards. Obviously, that's a heavy fighter. We were facing Connies. We were facing smaller ships like Gladiuses and stuff like that. And we just couldn't keep up with them because, well, with the bigger ships we could, but they still were doing just dramatic damage to us because of how fragile the ship's hull and sides were. So that was kind of frustrating experience. But so you're kind of like, what do you fight with this thing? You can't really chase down the smaller targets than you, and you can't really fight head to head with the big targets, because if they hit you, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. So you kind of got to aim for something around your size, you know, speed, everything like that. This ship does have a fantastic amount of speed, by the way, sitting at 229 SCM, and with a 570 forward boost, a 235 backwards boost, and a 1,405 nav speed, which that nav speed is just bonkers. I love that. And the acceleration on this ship is just fantastic. Now, if we're looking at the pitch yaw roll, this is a little bit worse than a lot of medium fighters out there and other ships, sitting at a 46, 38, 155, or a boosted 55, 46, 186, which again, that's a bit slow on the turning, on all your maneuverability. It's a bit slow, which is just too bad. But you're looking at the speed of this ship and then your initial firepower. If you can get a direct hit on somebody with those big old guns, you can definitely do some immediate damage, but you really want to try to prevent them from shooting you, because it could just be catastrophic. Now, you do have 48 flares and 5 decoys, which is your typical amount on any ship in this class. And then if you're looking at your fuel, you have 28.95 hydrogen fuel, SCU of hydrogen fuel, which is a just great amount. And then you have 1.15 quantum fuel, which is honestly just disgusting. I wish it was a lot more. With an interior on this ship, I was hoping it would be closer to 1.82, maybe even 2.5. But then again, there's a lot of ships out there like haulers and stuff that are even lower, like sitting at 1.8 that shouldn't be. And that just, it's all around the place with this. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best amount of quantum fuel for a ship that has this big of a bed. And then you have 29 SCU of hydrogen fuel. You're like, can't you break these tanks up in a little bit and kind of move them around? But yeah, you know, that's just my argument when it comes to fuel. But looking at the outside of the ship, it is pretty nice looking, especially if you compare it to the Mantis. It's got a lot of detail. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the exterior really quick and how you enter this ship. First, you start here at the very bottom of the ship between your guns at your cockpit. It looks pretty nice. And then to the right, you do have a button over here that opens up your fuel port, you know, attaching that hose from right under here or running it across, you know, probably not a good idea, but you do have that. And then you can go ahead and put that fuel port away. And to open up your ship, you look up and hit that button there. Your elevator will drop on down, giving you a nice little red light. And then once you're clear, it turns blue. Pretty nice there. Now you go ahead and hit this button here, and then the interior is 1-to-1 with the Mantis. You have a kitchenette over here, being able to make some food. You go ahead and open up that fridge with the button on the right there. Pretty nice. Go ahead and store some stuff in there. Right on the back wall is where your shield generators are, or your coolers, actually, or whatever power systems. I'm losing my mind trying to do this here. Now this one over here is, of course, more components, including a relay station. So shield generator right there, actually, my bad. And then, of course, all your other systems all over the place. And then you have a bidet, which is quite an interesting toilet addition, but I'll go ahead and close this up because we don't need to see that. And then you have a nice bed right here where you can go ahead and lay down or sit down. And then you have personal storage if you click that on the bottom, which you can go ahead and store some items there. Pretty nice. Now, if you continue to make your way to the front of the ship, you do have more areas that you can go ahead and touch buttons for right down here. Another component access area, nice little fire extinguisher right here. And then, of course, you have your Zeus pilot seat right here in front of you. You go ahead and get right on into that and fly off. But before you do so, let's take a look on the left side. Another button here, open up more areas for another shield generator. Thankfully, they're not right on top of each other this time. And then if you look right on up here, you hit that button, it does come out of the floor. You do have a weapons rack as well as additional storage. This weapons rack can fit a rifle here, as well as 2 handguns, or, you know, like a med device on these spots, as well as your additional storage here. Pretty cool. I do like the addition of this. With this should be quite the future in technology with the Perseus and the Galaxy. We should see a lot of this stuff coming out of the floors and everything. It should be quite interesting to see how they use that tech. But let's go ahead and close that up. Head into the cockpit really quick, and then I'll give you my score. I'll show you some of the combat that we have. It's not the greatest because, like I said, the ship, it was hard to really, you know, well, where am I looking? It was hard to fight in this thing. It really was. You know, a Vanguard took out one of our Mantises within like 3 hits because that's just how fragile this thing is. It was pretty crazy. Now, when you turn on your power systems, you turn on your engines, you're going to notice something about this here. You don't really have much for power. Let me go ahead and swap it over to SCM. Right now I have all my power set to how I'd want it. Full guns, full shields, but I'm taken away from, you know, other systems to do this. I'm not able to really operate this. Like right now I have no life support, no shield generators. because I have to drop this down to be able to actually support all this stuff. You know, right now, life support system isn't that crucial, but you honestly have to take away a whole cooler just to be able to get this stuff to all operate for you, which means that stock, your power distribution system is honestly quite terrible. So good to replace the you know, power system on this as soon as possible. And then past that, let's go ahead and take a look at the view here. You got a lot of side walls which kind of get in your way, and then you don't go forward or anything, so you can't really look up in combat. Kind of too bad. Your weapons do look to be gimbaled, which is nice. Let's go ahead and take a look at the big boys here. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. They are gimbaled, so that's pretty cool. But again, they just don't hit that well. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at that, and I'll give you my score. All right, as you can see, you know, getting into a fight with this thing is just kind of a difficult thing to do because pretty much anything could harm this thing just by sneezing on it, and then your weapons are just a real pain to use. The 4 size 3s aren't bad, the FL33s, and especially if you change those out for something like, you know, CFs or, you know, NDBs, or, you know, there's a multitude of other guns I'd probably put on here, but the size 5 guns, they just have such a slow round speed and everything. Honestly, my score for this ship is a 69 out of 100 because the HB is terrible. The firepower, it should be there, but it doesn't feel like it is. Your shield, not great. There's just a lot of things going wrong with this initial launch of this ship, which is honestly too bad because it is such a beautiful design. They did such a fantastic job on the exterior, and I just have to say, good job on that. But with that, that is my score. Let me know, what do you think of the Meteor down in the comments below? Make sure you comment and let me know. Do you like the ship? Do you dislike the ship? How would you improve it? And well, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate every single one of you and hope you enjoyed the video. I will catch you all in the next one.